Rain lashed the cobblestone streets, each drop a cold needle stitching sorrow into the night. The city, usually bustling with life and laughter, now seemed to cower beneath the relentless downpour, its ancient stones slick and glistening under the flickering lanterns. The storm was not just in the sky, it was in the very air, thick with tension and the scent of fear, mirroring the storm raging within young Chen, whose soul was battered by a tempest far fiercer than the one above. His eyes, wide and haunted, reflected the chaos of a world turned upside down in a single blood-soaked night. He huddled in the shadows, his heart a shattered relic, clutching his knees to his chest as if he could hold himself together by sheer will. The alley was cold and unforgiving, the darkness pressing in on him, but it was nothing compared to the emptiness gnawing at his insides. The vibrant market square, usually alive with laughter and light, was now a canvas of blood and despair. Stalls that once overflowed with color and noise stood silent, their wares scattered and trampled, the ground stained with the memory of violence. His family, brutally murdered by the Serpent's Fang gang, lay sprawled amidst overturned food stalls and flickering oil lamps. The air was thick with the metallic tang of blood, the silence broken only by the distant rumble of thunder and the soft, pitiful sobs that escaped Chen's lips. Chen's throat constricted with a grief so profound it threatened to consume him. Each breath was a struggle, each heartbeat a reminder of all he had lost. Tears mingled with the rain on his cheeks, but he made no sound, as if afraid that even his sorrow might disturb the dead. His father, a renowned calligrapher whose steady hand had once brought beauty and wisdom to the world, now stilled forever. His gentle mother, whose lullabies had soothed his childhood fears, silenced in an instant. His mischievous little sister, always quick with a joke or a smile, her laughter now just an echo in his memory, all gone, their lives snuffed out like candles in a storm. He stared at his trembling hands, stained with the blood of his loved ones, the rain doing little to wash away the crimson guilt that clung to his skin. The world felt impossibly vast and empty, and Chen, so small within it, was left with nothing but pain. He touched a hand still warm to his lips, a final, desperate farewell. The memory of his sister's laughter, his mother's embrace, his father's wise words, all flickered through his mind, each one a dagger twisting in his chest. An oath formed on his tongue, a promise whispered to the weeping heavens. He would avenge them. The words were simple, but they burned with the intensity of 1,000 storms, searing themselves into his soul. He remembered the faces of the Serpent's Fang, masked and merciless, their laughter echoing as they vanished into the darkness. Hatred, cold and sharp, took root in his heart, mingling with his grief until the two were inseparable. He fled the city that night, a lone wolf pup driven by sorrow and rage. Each step away from the ruins of his old life was a step toward something unknown, something dangerous, but he did not look back. The world had shown him its darkest face, now he would learn to wear its cruel mask. In the reflection of a rain-streaked window, he saw not the boy he once was, but the avenger he would become. His path led him to the secluded mountain monastery of the Iron Fist, a legendary training ground for martial artists. The journey was long and perilous, the mountain trails treacherous and shrouded in mist, but Chen pressed on, driven by the fire of vengeance. There, fueled by vengeance, Chen would begin his transformation. Each dawn as the sun rose over the misty peaks, he trained with relentless determination, forging his pain into strength, his sorrow into resolve. The night of crimson tears would haunt him forever, but it would also shape him into the weapon he needed to become. The monastery stood sentinel against the unforgiving mountainside, its ancient stones weathered by centuries of wind and rain. Perched high above the world, it seemed to float in the clouds, a place where time itself slowed and the outside world faded into myth. Here the air was thin and sharp, carrying the scent of pine and incense, and every sunrise painted the temple walls in gold and crimson. The monastery was more than a sanctuary. It was a fortress of stone and discipline, its high walls sheltering secrets as old as the mountains themselves. Within these walls, generations of warriors had honed their bodies and minds, forging themselves into living weapons. Chen, his youthful face now hardened by loss, embraced the rigorous training with grim determination. The pain of his past was etched into every line of his face, every muscle tensed with purpose. He arrived as a boy haunted by tragedy, but the fire in his eyes spoke of a resolve that would not be extinguished. Years blurred into a relentless cycle of sweat, pain, and unwavering focus. Each dawn brought new challenges, endless drills, punishing runs up steep stone steps, and hours spent perfecting every movement until his body ached and his spirit trembled. Yet Chen never faltered. He welcomed the exhaustion, letting it burn away his weakness and doubt. Master Lao, a wizened warrior with eyes like polished jade, saw the fire in Chen's soul. He recognized the storm of grief and anger that threatened to consume the young man, and he knew that only through discipline could Chen find peace or power. With patient hands and a voice as steady as the mountain, Master Lao honed Chen's raw potential. He tempered it, molded raw grief into a weapon of deadly grace, teaching Chen that true strength was born not from rage but from control. Under his guidance, Chen learned to channel his pain, to let it fuel his movements without letting it rule him. Days turned into months, months into years. The seasons cycled endlessly, spring's blossoms giving way to summer's heat, autumn's chill, and winter's biting winds. Through it all, Chen trained, his resolve hardening with every passing day. Chen mastered the fluid, ferocious movements of Tiger Claw Kung Fu, his body becoming a whirlwind of controlled power. Each strike was precise, each block unyielding, his muscles coiled like a predator ready to pounce. The style demanded both strength and agility, and Chen's dedication transformed him into its living embodiment. He learned the devastating strikes of Eagle Claw, his fingers trained to grip and rend with the force of talons. The technique required patience and precision, and Chen practiced until his hands were calloused and strong, capable of shattering wood and stone. He absorbed the unyielding defense of Crane style, learning to deflect and redirect force with effortless grace. The Crane's calm, balanced movements taught him to remain centered, even in the heart of chaos. Each blow, each block, was fueled by the memory of his family's laughter, the echo of their screams haunting his dreams. In the quiet moments between training, Chen would sit alone, remembering the warmth of his mother's embrace, the pride in his father's eyes, and the innocence that had been stolen from him. He wasn't just learning to fight, he was learning to channel his pain, to make it his strength. Meditation became as important as combat, teaching him to master his thoughts and emotions, to find clarity in the storm of his heart. As he sparred with the other students, each victory, each bruise, brought him closer to his goal. The camaraderie of the dojo became his new family, their shared struggles forging bonds of respect and trust. 6 years he trained, the flames of vengeance burning bright within him. Every sunrise found him on the training grounds, sweat glistening on his brow, eyes fixed on the horizon. Every sunset saw him still at work, perfecting his craft, refusing to let fatigue or despair claim him. 6 years he waited, forging his body and spirit in the crucible of discipline and loss. Now, as he stood atop the mountain, the world spread out before him. Chen was no longer the broken boy who had arrived in the shadow of tragedy. He was a weapon forged in sorrow, tempered by hope, and ready to descend from the mountain, prepared to face the darkness that awaited him below. Emerging from the monastery, Chen was no longer the grief-stricken boy who had once stumbled through its gates, lost and broken. The years spent within those ancient stone walls had transformed him. Each dawn, he had risen before the sun, his body and mind shaped by discipline, meditation, and the relentless pursuit of mastery. Now, as he stepped into the pale morning light, the weight of his past had become the steel in his resolve. He was a weapon honed to a razor's edge, every muscle and instinct trained for a single purpose. The pain of loss had been forged into focus, and the teachings of the monks echoed in his every movement. Chen was no longer running from his grief, he was wielding it. His first target was Viper, the infamous Serpent's Fang lieutenant whose cruelty had left scars across the city. It was Viper who had orchestrated the fire that consumed the market, the blaze that had stolen Chen's family and set him on this path. Now, vengeance and justice were intertwined, and Chen's mission was clear. For weeks, Chen became a shadow in the city's labyrinthine streets, moving unseen through alleys and rooftops. He watched, listened, and waited, learning to blend into the darkness. The city was a living thing, pulsing with secrets, and Chen learned to read its rhythms as if they were lines of scripture. He learned Viper's habits, where he drank, who he trusted, the patterns of his nightly wanderings. He noted the subtle tells of paranoia in Viper's eyes, the way he always kept his back to the wall, the coded signals exchanged with his men. Every detail was a thread in the web Chen was weaving. The information came at a price. Chen had to barter with informants, pay off streetwise children, and sometimes fight for scraps of knowledge in the city's underbelly. Each secret uncovered brought him closer to his prey, but also deeper into a world where trust was a rare and dangerous commodity. Navigating the city's underbelly, Chen moved through a world of whispers and shadows. The neon-lit back streets and echoing tunnels were home to the desperate and the dangerous, a place where violence simmered just beneath the surface. Here, Chen's training was tested daily, his senses sharpened by constant threat. He traded his skills for information, stepping into the ring in smoky gambling dens and illicit fighting clubs. Each fight was a transaction, his fists for whispered truths, his endurance for a name or a location. The crowds roared, but Chen's focus never wavered. Every bruise was a step closer to Viper. In the eyes of those he fought, Chen saw the same desperation that haunted his own heart. Many were men broken by circumstance, forced into violence by the city's cruelty. Their pain mirrored his, and each victory left him with a deeper understanding of the world he was fighting to change. Through careful observation and hard-won intelligence, Chen pieced together the details of Viper's life. He learned of the lieutenant's taste for luxury, his addiction to opium, and the fortress-like penthouse where he surrounded himself with loyal thugs. Viper's world was gilded, but it was also a prison of his own making. Night after night, Chen mapped out his plan with meticulous care. He studied blueprints, tracked guard rotations, and anticipated every possible move. Each note, each photograph pinned to his wall, brought the moment of reckoning closer. There was no room for error. This was a game of patience and precision. He would use Viper's vices against him, turning the lieutenant's opulent world into a gilded cage. The hunt had begun, and Chen was ready to become the shadow that haunted his enemies every step. In the city's darkness, justice was coming, silent, relentless, and inevitable.